36-year-old woman, raised Mormon, no longer Mormon, Donna. I wish so much that we had the same beliefs. It's so painful having such different beliefs because it's such a big part of my dad's life. And because it's a big part of his life, it becomes a big part of the family life. I can't have a family life with my parents and siblings that I feel very grateful to have, and in certain regards I feel very close and comfortable around, but in other regards I feel like a total stranger too. And I don't feel like that estrangedness would be there if it weren't for our differing religious beliefs.
Welcome to this special Mormonland Live episode from the campus of Utah Valley University in Orem, Utah. Few conversations are as fraught as those among family members who disagree about ideas they hold dear, and none more so than religion. Such exchanges can be especially painful for believers in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. So what happens in families where some hold firm to the faith and others walk away? How do parents, children, and siblings respond to those who have chosen a different path? Do they talk about it, or do they slink away in silent agony? Utah Valley University's Kimberly Abunawara, director of the Humanities Program, came up with an unusual way to explore these questions. She enlisted a group of students to interview various families about how their attachment to or distance from Mormonism affected their connections and communications. Then the team put together a performance in good faith in which student actors use those firsthand accounts from members and former members to reveal these wrenching experiences.
All right, Kim, tell us about this project.
Well, it's called ethnographic performance. It's kind of a hybrid of social science and theater. What you do is you interview people on a given topic, and then you take excerpts from those interviews and you perform them. Something magical happens when, in the audience, when they hear a point of view expressed, but they know that it's not the point of view of the person that's there, but that person there is a performer. So there's kind of a gap. And somehow it short circuits the typical knee-jerk defensive reaction that a person might have if they're hearing an opinion, for example, that they disagree with. By inserting the performer, you give the audience some space to think about this opinion in a new way. So what we're researching is faith difference in family relationships in or adjacent to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints.
60-year-old woman was a member of the church, no longer is. Kelly. The fact of the matter is, I don't really know how he's feeling, because I don't really ask him. Because we have a large disagreement between the two of us that's kind of daunting. I could really disrupt that peace by stirring the waters. He could be very angry at me for leaving, so that might be why I don't bring it up.
What was your experience like?
This is how I feel about a lot of my very loved friends that are no longer members of the church. I want to keep the peace between us, and so I try to not go into things because we're able to exist in the same space, knowing that we are believer and not believer.
39-year-old white female, former Mormon, Catherine. When you say goodbye, you have to be honest with yourself that you were saying goodbye to community, and it's the only one that you have. And it's not just doctrine, it's culture. You know the hymns and you know the shorthand, and it's really sad to go. You can only be the religion your grandparents were. And if you leave, your grandchildren can only be this new religion that you're going to figure out. And people cannot be happy fractured.
I had an experience like that, and just like hearing you like talk about it really like hit me. Like I was like, oh, like wow, that is like something that I miss so much, is that community, and like, you know, like the shorthand and the hymns and, you know, all of those things that come with it.
Our studies show that around 70% of UVU students self-identify as Latter-day Saint. We estimate that around half of those students are actively involved in their Latter-day Saint wards. It's a young religion, but it's also a religion that really emphasizes unity. Students often come in and have to understand there are a lot of people within this community that have a different way of understanding the world, that might come from a different part of the country.
I've been in ethics classes, actually, where we were talking about religion and morals within religion. And the class was pretty split in half in terms of who was a member of the church and who wasn't. So there was a lot of contention that came throughout that class. We didn't really have any boundaries in terms of speaking about it, so it kind of was wildfire of people that would kind of shoot back and forth at each other.
When faith differences happen in LDS families, one of the first things I've seen happen is that they forget how to talk to each other. Before, they had this like common map that helped them to be able to have a framework for talking and for understanding one another. And then they lose this common map, and they don't know how to talk to each other and ask questions. They're afraid of the answers that they might hear. And the result can be that they stop talking.
There are religious differences in my family. My dad, basically my whole life, has been distant from the church, and we've always just seen his side, at least I have, as wrong and ours as right. And because of that, I've just never thought growing up that I should even ask what his beliefs are. And so that definitely took its toll in my relationship with my dad growing up.
Sometimes people are talking to me about religious beliefs, and sometimes I don't want to talk to people about it because sometimes like it has the air of just wanting to talk about it, but then it turns into proselytizing. And so because there has been that, like, I don't want to be proselytized, I don't want to be enrolled into this, as a default, I get angry when someone brings up anything religious. I'm just like, I'm angry, I turn away, I walk out of the room because I don't even want to talk about it. And that's been what I've been experiencing for the past long time.
Yeah, no. This is currently something that I am working through, is this difficulty in communicating with personal relationships. My partner and I are in an interfaith relationship, and it's not necessarily on their part. I think I've actually had the brunt force of the issue of just not wanting to talk about it because I don't want to bring it up because it's hard. It's uncomfortable, especially when it pertains to the future and you don't know what that future looks like, and you've got such varying opinions.
The reason why ethnographic performance is such a strong mode of production for this kind of message is because it really makes people think about what the subjects have experienced, because they're not characters, they're subjects, and these are personal interviews. And so in the class, we started getting certified in performing this research because it was human subject research. And so we had to get the right certification so that we had the right training on how to interact with these people as we interviewed them.
Let's start. So you read over informed consent. Do you have any questions about privacy, pseudonyms, the rights you have about what questions you can, like what questions you answer, which ones you don't? Any questions about the questions?
Understand it, and you know, if I feel like I've breached privacy of my kids or whatever, I'll let you know.
Yeah, you can always say that you don't want me to use anything that you've said, and I can just strike it. First question, are there different religious beliefs within your immediate family as concerns the LDS Church?
Yes, there are.
Have you talked about those differences with your family?
Yeah, we do. You know, things have evolved a lot.
What it's like to interview someone. It's interesting. There was a lot of like, oh, I didn't even think about that. I forgot that I had that experience, and this interview is bringing it out because we don't talk about it.
So interviewing people on this topic, it can be a little nerve-wracking, at least for me, because I don't like upsetting people. But with the nature of the questions, sometimes it's a little uncomfortable, and that's okay because there's no real like growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone.
How do I just approach this I feel like I just would like some practice approaching it with as much sensitivity as I can, and like practicing like giving my interviewee like as much grace as I can, because like this is not an easy topic. Talking about faith differences in family is heavy. I just had my second interview, and that was really, really awesome too. My two interviewees are different in their religious beliefs, and it was really cool to kind of navigate both of those conversations and see how at the end of the day they were really similar. They both just wanted to love their family.
Oh, well, first interviewing someone, I mean, we did a lot of training around that, and I don't know if I still feel qualified for that. But interviewing someone on this topic, it is beautiful to see the relief. I think a lot of people are scared to talk about this, but when they feel safe, yes, they really want to talk about this.
A journalistic tactic in a lot of interviewing is to try to nudge your subject just a little bit, to try to see if there's anything that the interviewee is withholding because of their particular biases. This isn't that. This is entirely what they're comfortable talking about, and there's no agenda with these questions. We just want to know what people's experiences are.
So like talking to people that I've interviewed has been really, really good for me, because as they've been talking about things that they believe in, I've felt like a little bit of a throbbing pain come through my heart, because it's been things that I really disagree with. But like what's crazy is that because it was the interview and it was a professional setting, I was just like, you know what? This really is my own thorn to deal with. They're not doing this to me. This is just something that's happening from my own experience.
We're not saying one side is right, or even that there is a side necessarily, more just that we're trying to promote healthy communication and make sure that people can have relationships while these differences are still there. So, what's the word I'm looking for? Encouraging. It was really encouraging to go through this process and talk with, my castmates and to hear their point of views as well. It appears that, everyone wants what we want at the end of the day. They want to be able to communicate.
It's been a personal journey for me to be a part of this project. It's helped me realize how much I don't discuss interfaith differences with my family and my friends, and I want to more. And I've been confronting that, and it's been really exciting and beautiful.
During the course of the interview, we transcribed it, so we used a transcription service, and then we also recorded it.
In Teams, there's 3 items you need to upload: interview recordings, transcript, and then excerpts. The specific excerpt that you've chosen to do, okay?
When we finished the transcription, we selected the excerpts from the transcription that we thought were the most powerful, the most poignant, ones that really lent itself to the theme of the play, which is communication through faith differences. And we went through like a series of curation with our classmates. So we would interview someone, transcribe it, cut it down, bring in an excerpt and perform it, and then we would get feedback.
Middle-aged woman, active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, Olivia. And so every year they would have this Great American Smokeout, and you would always try to get people to sign up to quit smoking for one day. I would always try to get my dad to sign it, and I would always think like, he signed it, he's going to quit, he's going to come to church with us, and it's going to be great. And he always he would like not smoke for that whole day, but then like the next day he would smoke again. Oh, darn it. I thought this would be like a cute little fun one to have somewhere random.
Yeah.
Not one of the like emotional ones like the other ones that I've brought in. To me, her communicating is like, if he stops smoking, he'll come to church.
Yeah. To what extent is this one about our topic, which is communicating across religious difference? This is a person that's trying to get someone into the church, which is not what this play's about, but it's about feeling the tension of wanting and communicating with someone, right? It's tricky. It's a little bit tricky. But let's think about it. Let's think about this piece. But there has been such gold from Olivia. I'm not worried. Olivia's voice is going to be in this play.
53-year-old woman, former member, Tamara. You know, though, I am really grateful that I have had all these experiences, even though they've been painful. The reason why I'm really grateful is because I feel like I'm now out of that box, that right or wrong box. Mia and I are absolutely accepting of anything our children want to believe or do or be. Or, I mean, they can talk to us or tell us about anything. For me, the connection that I made, the connection to what we're talking about, is when she talks about the way that her family currently now talks about religion. Because it's way different from the way that, you know, she described earlier in our talk about how her family talked about religion.
Yeah, the way that she was like, we don't care what they believe. They could believe something different every single day because their experience as a human changes and we would still love them.
Yeah. And I love how she emphasized, like, people change, people grow, people learn. Because I feel like sometimes we get stuck in this headspace of people suck and they're always going to be that way, you know? And I feel like a huge theme of our show is change.
Early 20s man, former member, Knox. With extended family, like, as soon as that happened and we left, there was a lot of crying, obviously. Because, like, if you've grown up with this your whole life and then it's, like, thrown on its side, like, it's going to be crazy. But, you know, I was just a little kid when it was all happening.
This piece explains, at least to me, that it explains, like, all of his anger. Because he's like, this is, like, I was a kid and I didn't really know how to feel, but I thought it was cool. I didn't have to go to, like, I could do whatever I wanted on Sundays, which I thought was funny. But it definitely explains, like, over time that he's gotten frustrated with the fact that, like, he lost all his friends just because he didn't go to the same church as them. And, like, like that, like, view started making him angry.
Yeah.
Yes, there are lots of challenges for parents whose children leave the faith, because parents are granted a stewardship when they have children in the LDS cosmology, and they are to make sure that their children are taught in the correct principles. And so there's a sense of failure that happens when children don't match their parents' values. Parents have to figure out, do I want my child to have an eternal relationship with our family, in which case I really need to get more coercive? Or do I want a relationship with my child in the here and now? Really tough to try to parse that out.
Let's go to that point. Let's have you in those positions and see if that feels right, if you remember where we ended last night.
I think it's supposed to be concerned, but it feels more like judgment. Like, what are you doing?
I feel like I was focusing a little bit too much on having my movement match the words. So I was like, I have to be in my spot before I say the last word.
Both you and Marissa have crosses that are long. I am looking for, and I am inviting you, and I am wanting non-verbal interaction with the audience. All right, let's get to positions and get ready to start showing. At the end of the show, we'll take a break. Does that work for everybody? Okay, great.
Okay. We'll probably see the lights dim a little bit. Music's gonna fade. Savannah, whenever you're ready.
Has family talk about religious beliefs changed over time as you openly discuss personal beliefs? How so?
When my older brother told my parents he was leaving the church, my mom got really angry at him and was like, "Don't you dare lead my children astray." And that really hurt him because he's like, "I am your child." So I think there's a deep-rooted fear for me. Like, what is my mom going to say? What is she going to think?
I just recently come out as bi, and Cam was one of the first to know. And that's exactly what I was wondering. Why am I a part of this if I don't belong here?
Nora was teasing me about tarot. And then today I had mentioned that I was doing this interview with you. And she said, well, you do those candle seances. I've never done a candle seance. What does that even mean?
And they cannot recognize that I'm pursuing my own sense of morals, that I'm living to those. Instead, they see it as an emptiness.
And lights out. Love
I don't know if I was supposed to look at you. I was like going to, and then I was like, it's better if you look at me.
I'm not sure. Even like right here, like I'm not sure. It was just like this is not okay. It's just so weird. Like I was like, this is the real secret. So I did like subtle on this. He is this, but also I wanted a visible. Yeah, it's purple. But I remember like when I first got them, I was like, oh, I was like, it's nice time to be because of my mom. And that is very in a good way. I got it takes a pen once.
I concur.
She goes, what is that for? Yeah.
"23-year-old woman, member with reservations, Samantha." Before I got married, I was talking to my dad because we did not get married in the temple. Like, he said he'd support me no matter what. You know, he told me he would like to see me get married in the temple, but if I don't, then he's still happy for me.
We'll be there, and my younger brother, he'll make these comments like, I'll be the only one not drinking tonight, making these snarky comments, shaming them. And I'm like, get your crap together, my guy. You're not the only one not drinking. I don't drink.
I did talk to her, and I said, I'm trying to be respectful and understanding of where you're at with not wanting to be in the church. I think I've explained why I am, so you get to respect that. And part of that is, it's my home. You don't have to say the prayer. You don't have to say amen, but you do get to be quiet and respectful.
We have not had conversations about my choice to be with Hannah or Maya. There was an email that they didn't realize that I was a part of. They were talking about whether or not Hannah and her kids were gonna come to a family party. And one comment was, well, we follow the prophet, so no. I'm like, oh my gosh, which prophet are you following? I don't remember any prophet saying to exclude.
And I think the hard part is when you have a testimony of the church, a lot of it is based on personal spiritual experiences. So when you're trying to express to someone who hasn't had those types of experiences and they're just trying to prove you wrong from a logical standpoint, it's like it doesn't really matter. I think spirituality is supposed to be personal.
I just felt like mom and dad didn't love me anymore. Which now he's been like, no, that's not true. I know they love me, but it's so deeply connected into their life, and it's everything to them. Telling them that I don't want to be a part of the church anymore, it's like telling them I don't want to be with them, like, after I die. So, I avoid it.
My siblings know where I stand. They know that I have a testimony, and so in terms of further discussion, I don't see the point.
We would like them to come back to the church and to get back into the things that we think are right. But we would rather have the relationship we have and somewhat silently be with them.
I've been struggling with reading my scriptures the past few months. I read my scriptures for 7 years. I was really good at it, and then all of a sudden it kind of just fell apart. And it never felt like my parents ever asked me why that happened, or was interested in any of that. It was just, we expect you to do better.
And I was hanging out with a bunch of friends that night, and one of them made some homemade bread and was offering it to all of us. And I was like, no, I can't eat it right now. I'm fasting. I was a little embarrassed. Because, not all those friends are religious. A lot of them are ex-Mormons. But then my friend got a couple slices of bread and put it in a Ziploc bag for me to have for later. Which just really touched my heart, because this person who left the church and has a lot of issues with it still didn't have any issues with me practicing.
My name is Lizzie, and I've been really privileged to be able to work with Kim and the rest of these actors on this show for the last couple of months. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna spend about 20 or 30 minutes having a conversation together. Before we do that, I wanna go over the little flyer that was on your seats when you walked in. So this is something that we call guardrails or community guidelines or boundaries. It kind of creates a set of agreed upon community rules that you're gonna abide by when you have these conversations. The first one is to speak from the I perspective. Something that we like to say in Interfaith is that you are the world expert on you. You're not the world's expert on your faith system. As much as you'd like to think you are, you're not. You are the expert on you and what you believe and what your experiences are. The next one is to expect experiences that you may not understand. That's also fairly self-explanatory. This is an invitation to listen to people and to not get defensive, to not get judgmental about the things that they're saying and the experiences that they've had. The next one is assume best intentions. I really like this one because I feel like it relates to the title of this play, which is In Good Faith. And so I want to invite you to believe that the people around you are acting in good faith, that they have the best intentions when they're having these conversations with you. The last one is to be brave. Talking about this stuff is really, really hard. I would invite all of you to value your relationships more than you are scared of feeling uncomfortable.
What was it for you as actors to embody opinions or beliefs that you don't share?
It was really hard to have my own belief system and latch onto somebody else's in that moment because I'm currently going through my own faith struggles. So tapping back into those beliefs that I let go of and really trying to understand where they're coming from was really hard for me, and to see, okay, this is a real person's experience. This is real to them, and I can respect and empathize with that.
And I just want to compliment you guys. I thought as a audience member, I thought you did a really great job of not pushing a personal agenda and not letting your own personal biases bleed into it. And I thought it was just a really great representation of the community at large. And I want to praise you guys on that. It was really beautiful. Yeah.
How did you guys keep yourselves and protect your own peace and safety during this process? Because I know that I would get really anxious.
Towards the beginning of this process, we had a conversation as a cast where we kind of shared our stories to each other. And I feel like that really helped us to support each other through this process. Because, yeah, there were nights where we were all in tears by the end, you know? Yeah, there was nights that were really hard. But at the end of the day, as long as we knew that we were all there to support and love each other, it made the process easier.
And one of the things that I noticed that was a lacuna in this is the fact that families are torn up by these beliefs. They're shredded, they're traumatized, and not everybody wants to reconcile in those cases. If I have to respect a belief that invalidates my very identity in order to have a conversation with them, I don't want to have that conversation. And it's not fair to think that I ought to, that I have some kind of obligation to do that.
So one of my interviewees, Penny, does not speak to her family anymore. And I just want to say that experience is so valid, and I don't think any of our intent at all is to say if it is not safe to have these conversations, you probably shouldn't be having them. I know how difficult that can be to try and have a relationship with somebody who maybe doesn't validate your own lived experience, and in some cases it just isn't worth it.
Yeah.
But there are other cases in which it is, so.
For me, I was watching going, okay, who can I have these hard conversations with? Who have I been avoiding these conversations with? Because there are people in my life still that I'm like, I don't feel comfortable and I don't know how to handle that. And so having the courage to be able to maybe have hard conversations in places that's appropriate, and then also being watchful of myself and protecting what can I do? What am I willing to do? You know, so.
Yeah, me personally, I left the church pretty recently, and the people that I do feel safe with, I've been able to have wonderful conversations because of these guardrails. But there are people in my life, like my grandparents, who I will probably never talk to about this kind of thing, just because I know who they are to me. And I know. No, sorry. You get it.
Over a course of a year, my parents both started to fall out of the church too, and we started not going to church anymore, except for my older brother. And he's only 14 months older than me. He actually gets back from his mission next month, so I'm super, super excited for that. So he's giving his welcome home talk at church, and I haven't been to church in 3 years, and I don't know like if people are gonna come up to me and ask me like questions of like why they haven't seen me. So I guess my question is, how do I respond to like the members coming up to me at church, and how do I respond to being back at church?
I think like constantly remind yourself you're there for your brother, and anyone that comes up to you, they're probably coming up to you because they miss you. Kind of giving the benefit of the doubt that they're just coming up because they miss you and they love you, and just remembering that you're there because you want to support your brother, because you love your brother.
Can I just add something to that as an active member? It's nice when you're also given grace that you're just trying to do your best to reach out to somebody you haven't seen for a while, and you're not trying to draw attention to the fact that they haven't been there for 3 years, but you just really love them and are excited to see them. So what I love about this experience is the grace going both ways, because I feel like I need grace too. I'm just doing the best I can to fumble through this and help everyone in my life feel loved.
I work as a therapist for youth, and I think it was really interesting to watch this because I've seen like every single experience in youth and in parents, and so I just wanted to say that I thought it was very well represented.
On the whole topic, yeah, there's 41 hours of interviews that we've been able to curate. There's also a whole lot of people around you guys. There's a whole lot of people in your community. And if you use these guidelines to have conversations like that, you also can have deeply impactful experiences like we've had.
I think that's a great note to end on. Thank you guys for being a great audience and for having such thoughtful questions for our actors. Thank you for coming.
Like people sharing their stories, you know, people were so open with us. I really loved when people would comment as well, like, oh, I saw my mom in this, or I saw my sister in this, or whatnot. Like, that was really powerful to me because that's the experience I had as well, you know? Like, I saw myself in many excerpts, and I saw my family members in many excerpts, and that was I feel like that was where a lot of the healing came from, so I was really, really glad that our audience got that as well.
When we did the show and then we had all the talkbacks after, I was like, whoa, this is so cool. Like, we had so many different people sharing their experiences, sharing how they felt about the show, how it changed them or didn't change them, how it affirmed what they believed in or if they saw themselves in the show, and I just thought that was magical. My family came to the show one night. They're members of the church and have been their entire lives. They had brought up some concerns with the show before they even really knew what it was about, which is totally fair. Like, for me personally, as a person of the church, I know that I can kind of be unsettled by things that are about the church that I don't quite understand yet. And so when they came to the show, they loved it. First of all, they absolutely loved it. But I didn't know that until the talkback, because my dad and my sister-in-law spoke out and said some really great things about how we could be less judgmental as a society and really, you know, start to accept people for who they are and where their journey is at. And I just remember being like, oh, okay, this is the moment where I'm like, yes, this is a great thing.
This one was from my dad, actually, but he came one of the nights, and he was like, back when Savannah was hiding in the bathroom at church, because I was, he didn't know, and I was like, nobody's gonna know that I'm just gonna sit in the bathroom for 2 hours. The Young Women's leaders figured it out eventually. They're smart, but after the talkback, because he brought that up and everybody was laughing, because it's funny. Like, it's really funny that 14-year-old me was like, let's go sit in the bathroom. That'll solve all of our problems. But my dad sent me this like really sweet message, and he was just like, I just realized that I never asked you why you did that. And we were able to just, you know, like that door opened, and I'm kind of like, we can talk about that now.
And I feel now like I can talk to my mom about things, and even if it's scary, just gotta, I guess, be brave a little bit, because like the worst thing would be having to live a lie my whole life. And I feel like this project gave me the pathway to introduce all of this to my mom to be able to start having these conversations.
If former members aren't willing to make any attempt to understand where the church is coming from on certain issues, then no progress is going to be made. If only one side is expected to come to the other person and talk, it's not going to happen.
I think what stuck out to me the most was people on both sides being like, this is such an important thing. I was like a little nervous, but to hear that both sides and so many people were like, everyone needs to see this.
In the past, before this show, I would like gossip about the church, and I would gossip about my family members who were LDS. I don't need to gossip anymore because I realize that I'm talking about real people with real beliefs. It's been really nice to be able to talk to people, especially with my family members. It's just been really beautiful to just really see them.
When I came into this, I thought that there would be Mormon bashing. I know that I was in a very bitter place, and I was afraid that that would come through, and I would be encouraged to keep being bitter. But quite the opposite happened. I just feel so much more love for members than I have in a long time.
You know, I'm not religious, so I feel like I've gained a newfound respect for religious people in general. But yeah, I mean, I was pretty angry at the church when I left, and I feel like this process really helped heal a lot of that for me. Now me and my mom talk about the church a lot more freely with each other because we know where each other are at now because we've been able to talk about it.
Conversations in my family and especially in my marriage, like there was so much fear there that we would realize our beliefs are so different that we weren't compatible. And so any conversations we had, although we were really good about talking about it, they were so scary and so emotional. Second to last show, I went back home and my husband and I talked till 3 or 4 in the morning, and there was no fear, only curiosity. It was amazing how much we had misunderstood about each other's beliefs. The relief to just not be scared anymore. I can't express what that means.
It's always gonna get better. There's nowhere to go but up. I feel like at the beginning of someone's faith transition, or if they leave the church, it can feel like the worst thing in the world, but it's just gonna get better from there. You know, you're starting from rock bottom of this really difficult change happening, but trust that, you know, a couple months from now, a couple years from now, it's gonna be better.